Let's go.
Easter weekend was Saturday, the day before Easter, but farms around the area had egg hunts. We decided to go as a family, but first, we wanted to go for breakfast. Around this time, I was spending many nights of the week in her bed at her home. The night before, I had our son for the night because she works late on Friday. She came around 11 am when she usually wakes up from sleeping in. We go to this place that's new to us in our town, and while we wait for our food, she takes the energetic 1-year-old around for a walk in the Idol restaurant. She left her phone. I had a gut feeling something was wrong, so as soon as she left, I grabbed her phone and went straight for Snapchat. My stomach sank, my hands shook, and the adrenaline kicked in because of the stress on my body. It went into flight or fight mode. This discovery broke my heart, shattered my mind, tore my spirit, and even insulted me as a man. There were several snaps between the two of them, so I couldn't see what they sent each other, but then the chat started as I scolded down. My heart is beating faster as I relive this and write it down. My mom, but she is sleeping, and her TV's on, texted Arya. Okay, I'll be on my way in a sec, said the guy. I'm getting frustrated and hurt now, just like I was back then, but it was way worse as it came as a terrible surprise. Imagine the betrayal of someone whose bed you slept in and vice versa. We have a whole child together, and she was living a double life. She spent time and used me during the day and went to go F at CK him that same night. It was disgusting, it was irritating, and it broke me. I remember texting her that night she should come to spend the night at my house so we could wake up as a family since we were leaving in the morning anyways, but she blew me off, and now I know why. The texts ended with him locking his keys in his car, and they didn't meet up, which was lucky for him because I had a gut feeling that night she blew me off. I went around her house late that night after she got out of work, and judging by the times of the texts, if he had gone over that night, I would have seen him, and something would have gone down. As a side note, this guy was well known to be in which I don't see how since he is nothing impressive and still lives with his parents, but I suspect he blew her off that night for another girl now that I'm thinking about it since he has 2 cars which I would later find out. The food had arrived, and she returned to the booth with our baby. The phone was already placed down like nothing had happened, but I went to the bathroom to splash water on my face and get a hold of myself. I tried putting a happy face on, but my hands and voice were just too shaky. What really gave it away was that I lost my appetite. I tried to munch but felt nauseous as I took the slightest bite. At first, she tried playing dumb and asked me why I was shaking and wasn't eating, but then she asked me straight up if I had gone through her phone. I never liked to lie to her, but here I didn't have a choice even if I attempted to, so I came clean. I asked her why, but she couldn't give me a good reason, so I just sat there until they were done eating, trying to keep myself together until we all got in the car, and I broke down. This was the first time I cried in front of my son, and I was bawling. I couldn't help it, I felt worthless. I couldn't believe she had been going back to him and lying about it since we had spent time together again. I sat there crying and told her to take me home, but my son was trying to cheer me up from the back seat. I thanked him and told her we should finish the day for him. As with most things, I did this for my son. I wanted my family together again for my son. I still loved her even after hurting me. Still, the guilt of a broken family was the source of my motivation. So we did the Easter egg hunt and pretended nothing was wrong. She's very good at pretending that, and then talked some more before we went our separate ways. She made it painfully clear she feels no guilt whatsoever since we aren't a couple, even though we do couple stuff. She stated that he only hits her up to see if she was DTF sometimes, like telling me that a loser like him, using the woman I used to hold higher than God himself, was getting used as some low-class ragdoll sneaky link. I had always been so forgiving and merciful, mainly because it's hard for me to hold a grudge with my lousy memory, so after this day, we gave it some time, and I was even more determined to win her over than before. You could say I was obsessed, but something had changed about me that day. The once optimistic happy-go-lucky guy everyone knew had something small but dangerous growing in him, a speck of darkness. When paired with an obsession, he could pose a massive threat to himself and everyone around him. We have all seen and heard the stories of kids, teens, and adults suffering from mental health from whatever trauma afflicted them and forced them to do terrible things, especially towards the masses of people. Mental health is no joke, and nobody is safe from it. Not even someone with the most positive mindset and a will of iron can fight it off completely alone, and that's all I felt. I did everything in the book and thought outside the box to impress her. I covered her car at work with flowers, showered her with multiple gifts several times, and decorated her room with candles, balloons, and flowers for Mother's Day. We even went on numerous successful dates without our son and had intimate nights without going all the way. She was falling for me again. Still, night after night, I was obsessed, wondering if she was with him. I began to stalk her home and job and track her in any way possible. Hiding my real intentions from everyone, I put my mask on and acted like things were normal while feeding that speck of darkness, allowing it to grow. Over the months, I had gotten sloppy and caught up with some things, making her resent me more and more and making her more cautious of inviting him over. Finally, she sensed that I was getting dangerous and throwing out the whole year. It was 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Every time I made a mistake violating her privacy or disrespecting her boundaries, she would push me away and return to him. Eventually, I didn't want her anymore. I wanted him so I could hurt him how he unintentionally hurt me. She says he doesn't know anything about me, but it was hard to believe when I unrealized he had seen his car leave her street a few times. It eventually got so bad that she met him at abandoned parking lots to see him. I wonder if this was the first or last time. Still, I followed her to an old putt-putt golf course that had been closed for a few years. As I parked out of sight, I saw him pull up shortly after her. My stomach is starting to turn as if I was there again because of all the stress my body went through this past year. However, I ignored my bodily functions and focused on sneaking up on them. Wearing all black, I got a couple of pics of his car, which was a win for me since up until then, I had known nothing other than the stuff he posts on social media, and there was very little information. I wanted more. I had to stop whatever they were doing, so I crept behind his car and got a picture of the license plate. Suddenly I heard a pop noise coming from inside the car. He locked it. I knew the jig was up, so I walked to the passenger window. With a surprised look, she saw me, turned to him to apologize, and as he put it in gear to drive off, I hit his car and yelled at him for not confronting me. If he didn't know me then, he does now. They take a right and drive into the night, and he moves fast, but I quickly realize she never locks her car. Sure enough, the keys were also inside, so I tried following them in her car. I had lost them, but it wasn't a complete loss since she would have to return to me to get her car. After driving around for a little, Aria's sister calls me and tells me to meet to return the vehicle. The sister is a good girl. Through our difficulties, we became best friends during the year. Of course, I returned the car, but I wanted to talk to Aria, but she refused, so I gave her the car, and at 3:00 am, I laid down in the middle of the road and told her to go away. They refused to leave me there, so I got a few words out of her, which were meaningless anyways. She was cold to me, frustrated for sure, but showed no sign of empathy for what I was going through.